We talk all about what we need to do for students and what students need from us and what students need to do in the curriculum, but we don't really hear from the students. So we wanted to change that with this lunchtime panel. Lori McDermott is going to kick us off. And everybody's asking me what the heck this thing is. If you haven't figured out, this is a microphone, and we can actually throw it. You ready, Reed?
My hand. You asked me to catch it. Great.
So if we do want to open this up for questions, we can, no, I'm not going to throw it the bar. Just let me know, and I can kind of toss the microphone to you. So I'll turn it over to Lori and the students.
All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We have 4 very intrepid individuals here to share with us their thoughts about, reactions to what we've been talking about today. We have John. I'm not going to say anyone's last name for fear of messing up one of the last names, okay? So better to be egalitarian. We have John, we have Nikki, Natasha, and Janie. And they come from all varieties of majors. We couldn't, well, technically a science, right? I'll let them tell you anything that they want to tell you about their background. Or during the Q&A, you can ask them. So why don't we just sort of divvy this up so that for the first 15 minutes or so, I'll have them have some canned answers, and then you can ask your questions, whatever's burning in your mind. So this, as an English professor, I have to play with language, and Keynote came up. So I'm going to ask each of you to tell us a little bit about what was the keynote that was struck for you during this discussion. What did you take away, if anything? Who would like to get us started? Okay.
The main thing for me from this presentation was the accessibility of it all, I guess. As was brought up in an earlier panel I attended, having a website for yourself is not really a new concept, but the way it's structured, the way we bring students in and give them this opportunity to learn for themselves and grow this way is what really stuck with me. Personally, I have a lot of trouble with my online presence. Like, I don't have the confidence to put things out there. Like, why would anybody care about this thing that I'm putting out there? And I think Domain of One's Own is a great vehicle for building that confidence and maybe encouraging me to get started on that and keep the momentum going.
One thing I took away was not to be afraid to just start and kind of work out your problems when they come up, and kind of being able to problem solve and just doing it, because if you don't start somewhere and if you worry about all of the problems you possibly could think of, you'll never get anywhere if you don't start. So that's one thing that I took away, is just putting stuff up, getting going, and if you face a problem, ask for help, Google, do something about it.
Am I talking loud enough now? Okay. So one thing that really struck me with your talk was about how originally the student work kind of felt meaningless, but through this, they're able to take full ownership and are able to take what they create away with them once they are done with the class, and can show others what they've been doing besides it being flushed away or being thrown aside. But otherwise, just having the confidence to make this site and not be afraid of showing what you're seeking in your work.
First of all, yesterday we all talked and they've all started a website or a domain or something. So during your whole talk, my mind was being blown because I haven't even thought about this stuff. But one thing that stuck with me was, you don't have to tell me the word again, but it was about a bridge. Yes, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Is that a different language, or is that just a vernacular? I don't know.
French term, but you know,
okay.
Playfulness and some
Yeah.
synonyms.
Perfect. Well, that was, I think, a keynote for me. Just the idea of taking, not restarting, but taking the broken bits and then making a bridge to new stuff. That was just a really cool idea.
Communication major.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay, so my next question has to do with problems and problem solving. So Robin talked about, let's just introduce them to this whole world. Let's invite them to the conversation. Let's let them discover the problems and help us to fix them. So have you discovered, wherever you are in this process of working online or working in the open, as we would say, so not just for yourself in a class where it's all locked behind closed doors, but out there in the great refrigerator of the world, with the magnet stuff, have you discovered any problems?
Well, I personally haven't really started with this domain of one's own project, but I've been a citizen of the internet for a few years. It's kind of a rough place, depending where you go. People are not very nice to each other, and sorry, could you repeat more of the question?
Citizenship.
Citizenship.
I think you're moving toward there's maybe a problem with citizenship on the internet.
Right. There are places on the internet where it's kind of like more of a mob mentality, so it's hard to state your own opinion, and that's something that we should work harder to protect, I would say. As long as you're not hurting anyone, you should still be able to say anything you like within reason. I don't know. It's a messy problem, as we all know.
Yeah.
One thing that I come with troubles with having my own domain is I have a contact page, and I get a lot of spam, which is really annoying because then you get worried of like what deals are actually like real or not, because it's so easy to fake it, and so you kind of have to be careful. So like when I see emails come in about my website saying, oh, like here's like this promotion, things like that with links, I'm like, oh, okay. And then sometimes I see positive feedback and I'm like, oh, this is a legit person like saying they like my website. So that's something I do like have problems with on my website, along with also deciding on how I want my website to look. I'm really big on design and I change my mind a lot. So that's another thing, is going through all of the themes and being like, oh, like what should I have my website be? And I change it often, but other than that, it's probably my problems.
So for me, with problems that have come up, it's mostly problem solving on how can I figure out how to fix these problems. Like there was a little bit where I was having troubles with getting one of my blog headlines to pop up the way I wanted it to. Like for some reason it was putting some random image with it that I didn't want, so I had to look at the FAQ page that goes with WordPress, and when that wasn't really helping, I just Googled it. Google is a fantastic tool for problem solving. If you haven't used it, it's great. Otherwise, other problems have been just trying to set my own goals for myself to stay focused on the actual content instead of getting distracted by how I'm having it shown, where, for instance, like the theme-wise, it's very easy to get distracted by all the themes and playing around with it instead of focusing on, hey, what's the actual blog supposed to be about? So those are just the problems I've seen.
Robin talked about public versus private, so I think kind of related to her point was just not really knowing who's actually seeing what you're putting online, and do I actually own my work? Am I in control of my work? Who's seeing it? So just the issue of who's seeing it and are they authentic, that kind of thing.
And then the other question is about ownership, right? So you talked about owning a house, right? And then I realized none of these four probably own a house yet. And if they do, ooh, kudos, right? And I asked them if any of them have rented their own apartment yet or anything. No. So I went scale down. Do they have their own room? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to make an analogy that your room is your own, right? Within certain parameters. So what is ownership in that, how can you compare maybe your work online to, having a room online of your own? What might be some of the things you have to take into account where it's not really your own? If you want.
Okay. So, as Lori said, I haven't really had to grapple with ownership much in my life because I haven't had my own place, but I've had my own room within college and within my parents' home. But the thing about ownership is those structures need to exist for my ownership, like as a prerequisite for my ownership of my things. Without the walls of the room in my parents' house, all my stuff's just sitting out in a field somewhere. So I sort of depend on them to be able to express myself in my own space, which is something akin to using like a prepaid WordPress site or something where they own the content that I put up there and I don't have my own control over it because they're a necessity for me to have that stuff, if that makes sense.
I think another thing too is, yeah, you have your own room, but I think of like, oh, if I want to have someone over, like, is it presentable to have someone over so they can like see what I have in my room, like my pictures I have on my wall or things like that. So kind of having a space where it's yours, but you can still work in it, and then a place where you also want to show people around and like show it off.
Also that like there's a mutual understanding that if something was to be put in my room, that they'd at least ask about it or talk to you about it before something got added to your site or your room. And also just the freedom to make it look how you want it to without too much overbearing control is very important, so that you are able to have your own identity without an overseeing presence that isn't really wanted around.
I don't even know what to add to all that, but this is all such deep stuff for me. Like when you said like you have a room, but it's in a house that like is yours but isn't yours. Because when people come over, you're like, come to my house. Like no one says come to my mom and dad's house that I just live in. Like no one says that. But if you think about it, like that's what it is. And then you also mentioned you're like you have a name, but like your parents gave you that name. I'm like, who am I? Like like am I me? I don't know. It's like thank you. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I have to add. I don't know. Like those were all good points.
I think that's one of the things that makes all the choices that we don't even think about anymore, that there's a multiplicity of choices. So sometimes even going to the grocery store is a harrowing experience. I need mustard. Go to Woodman's. There are 50 brands of mustard. 2 hours later, you leave with ice cream, but no mustard. But it seems like there's a dizzying array of choices online too. Who are you going to be putting this out there for? How are you going to decorate it? What are you going to say there? What's going to happen if you invite X, Y, or Z in there and they see that? And, what are the repercussions? And again, room in somebody else's house, sometimes they don't let you put what you want in the room or invite the people you want back to your room, except at certain hours and under doors open, and right? So lots of things to think about, and I think they still sort of apply on the internet. Even if we take the ads away, are they still there? Or, I don't know if anyone else here has been sucked into the hole of the Black Mirror or other sort of future-looking shows, getting me to think about how we're constantly being surveilled. So we might be putting things on the internet, but then where are all the ways in which we're being seen? What if there was a pinhole camera in your room that you didn't really know about that was recording everything that you did in there?
Like the Truman Show?
Right? So clearly we're thinking about these things, we just have different ways of talking about them. Sometimes we don't sit on a podium and talk about them that way. So why don't we open it up for you all to ask questions?
And before we do that, I'm sorry, we didn't really introduce ourselves. I'm John. I'm a computer science major studying here. I'm going to be a senior next year, and I work in the IT department on campus. So I'm close to a lot of the technology on campus, and it's cool to see all this going on.
I'm Nikki. I'm a graphic design major. I work at the galleries here on campus, and I'm going to be a senior next year.
I'm Natasha. I'm an English major with a creative writing emphasis. And I am a senior. I'll be graduating in the fall. And I also work at the Tech Bar, so that's actually how I got my domain. So go Tech Bar.
I'm Janie. I'm going to be a second-year student. I'm a communications major with a peace and justice minor, and I work for the Gap Experience office. Yeah, and I work at Bay Park Cinema, so come see some movies.
Oh, we have a question over here. Who's your favorite professor? But I have a question for you on assessment. So kind of based off of the slide that Robin had in her presentation about, do I own my domain if it's graded? How would you want, as you are putting your work on your domain, how would you want that assessed by your professor, or do you want it assessed by your professor?
Want me to start? Okay. Yeah, during the keynote, I resonated a lot with that and the other student concerns about, do I own this? Personally, I don't think I would want it assessed if it's up on my site, or have a separate section for graded work and ungraded work that just kind of relates to my graded work, because it is out there, it is our own, so it kind of defeats the purpose if someone's telling us exactly how to do it, I would say.
For me personally, it wouldn't matter because I still, I know that work is for a class, so I would realize that I'm going to be graded on this. So either I would make a subdomain on my website, or or just include it in my website. I know I started with blog posts about painting, so that's how my website started. And I kept most of them on there because I was proud of them. I worked hard on them, and I made them the assignment more something I was interested in and that fit with my website. So I didn't mind having it graded because I worked hard on it.
So with assessment, I feel like I'd personally be more interested in being graded for effort. Like if you look at the website and it looks like it does belong to the student, like their personality's on there. Like my blog is full of purple and a bunch of random quotes and stuff because I'm an English major and I love purple, so it shows. But if a student is more of a reserved person who likes more organized and white spaces, to have that considered if you do have to assess it. So look more at what kind of fits the student versus what the class is for, if that makes sense. I feel let me say that again, because that was, yeah. So with the websites, because it is their own, it's hard to assess it without having to kind of creep on what they would want to put on their site. So instead of going about it you have to have X, Y, and Z in this certain format, this certain way, let them have the creativity to do what they want with that. And then just kind of, if you must give it a grade, then look at it from how much effort did they actually put into it, and does it kind of fit their style and their personality.
I like the idea of having a subdomain, but then if you want to highlight a piece of work, then you can do so if you'd like. And I like what Robin mentioned about how you grade things with either it's green light or it's not. And I just like that idea of it's almost there, but just keep working on it and giving students the opportunity to keep adding to their work. I just think that's a good system.
I just threw a post on the hashtag, which is oh, hello. Thank you for not throwing that at me. But on the hashtag, I just put a blog post about the sort of the ins and outs of our program, but it includes a part about green light grading and how we develop that and how it works. So you can either email or tweet me or just find it on the hashtag.
Aren't you dying to throw that?
A little bit. Yeah.
Over here. I don't know if I want to throw it that far, but ready? Ooh, ooh.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. My name's Kate. I work at UW Green Bay. I'm going to be presenting on ePortfolios later, but I had just wanted to ask you all a question about assessment. If your site was being used to, say, track programmatic outcomes, would you, right? That's usually what ePortfolios have been touted as, that this is something that's going to help a program develop. Is that something that you would be okay with? If they're not grading your portfolio itself, but if they're going to use it in the program to develop what the learning outcomes will be. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's great. The thing about the portfolio, as it's been explained to me, is it's a great way to track your progress, which goes really hand in hand with that, I would say.
I mean, being an art major, portfolios are a huge thing, and having that digital one for me is really important because it's a way that my work, I know where it is. It's always there. So if I would ever forget like a hand-on portfolio or something like that, like I have my like a backup. And if I have like a really large painting, I don't want to carry a 40 by 40 panel to my thing and be like, hey, this is what I've done. I can show a picture online and it's all there and it's super easy. And yeah.
I think the portfolio would be fine. Like, it also helps the student to look at their own personal growth and then where the programs can move further to.
I think as long as I give consent to it and I'm okay with it, or whoever's domain it is, they are okay with it, then that's just a person's decision. It's their prerogative to decide that, I think.
These are good questions. And
Two
good
more
answers.
minutes.
Maybe one more question. One more question? Over here? I won't throw it at you again since you have the...
So if we set aside a minute the domains itself and think about the intent of doing the domain, is to give you ownership of your own learning. So learning is not being done to you, but rather you take ownership of your own learning. Okay, so is that something that you feel that this tool or some other tool might help us to achieve in a way that's different than what you're doing now? Higher, more.
I think this tool could help us achieve that goal. For me, this tool helps like build a sense of purpose into it. For example, I'm not a big fan of writing papers per se because it's a lot of work with no payoff to me. Like you said in your presentation, Robin, it just doesn't relate to you at all. After it's done, and you never have to think about it again. Where this domain lets you learn, lets you grow from that. And it's always there to remind you of what you learned from that and keep pushing forward rather than vanishing into dust in some computer folder somewhere.
I think too, having like work done online, it's like a good type of pressure for me because it's like, oh, people are like might see it, they could possibly see it. So it's not like a bad type of pressure. It's more of like, oh, I want to impress people. I want to try my hardest. So for me, it gives me a motivation to do my very best and not just slack off and be like, no one's going to see this anyway. I don't really care.
Yeah, with that, I also, with the taking the learning bit, it allows people to also think of it in a different way so they can have a chance to reflect on what they're learning in the classroom and maybe spin it in a different way that's more personalized to them as well, so they're able to grow from that too.
In the GAP experience, we talked a lot about the importance of telling your story, and I think this is a great way to take ownership over your work and take ownership over your story and be proud and confident of who you are and the great things that you've done, and like you said, taking ownership of your learning and not having the learning done to you. You're taking ownership over the knowledge that you have and being able to share and spread that with other people and then also learn from them as well.
Well, thank you very much. Let's give them all a big hand.
These these are such good conversations, and yeah, I'm hopeful that in the afternoon we can continue them through our 2 more sessions, and then our reception at 3 o'clock. I also want to make a reminder, we still have is the mobile service desk still upstairs in the lobby? So if anybody is having any technical issues, we do have the IT mobile service desk over there. And if you're having any problems connecting to the Wi-Fi, or you need, something, they can answer all of your questions, especially those of you who might be presenting in the second half here. So just know that they're up there, for your help if you need it. All right. Thank you, everyone.